showcases a variety of amazing tech talent that is right here in our city, that is making an impression both locally, nationally, and of course globally. Now today I am here with another group of amazing individuals. Before I introduce them specifically, we already know, one of the key things that we always talk about is entrepreneurship, and one thing about entrepreneurship is solving a problem and finding the answer to a problem. Well, here today I have two individuals from Tandem Technical. Now, you've been a little bit under the radar, so I'm so glad that we can showcase you today because you've done so many amazing things and will be doing so much more. So with me today, we have founder Jerry Flynn. Thank you very much for joining us, and also co-founder Heather Ward to share with us a little bit more about this amazing company. Now, one of the key things that you are trying to solve, and that is, of course, carbon emissions. Now, that by itself is a huge task. So let's start with the basics. Jerry, if you'd be so kind, in the best way possible, in the simplest way possible, explain to us a little bit what Tandem Technical does and how you're trying to solve this problem.
So we're a small startup. We have an interesting process for taking CO2 emissions from a flue stack from a power plant or cement factory, and converting that into minerals that are non-toxic and safe and used in everyday products such as paint and toothpaste and things like that. So we're taking what's essentially a liability in terms of global warming and things of that nature, and turning it into an asset, since the market that we're targeting is upwards to $25 billion. So there's a big opportunity there, and we're hoping that with our technology moving forward, we'll be able to bring something to market that a lot of different companies can use, not just the power industry.
So that is, thank you very much, in layman's terms. I know it's been a process up to this point to get your company, and it's very interesting how you and Heather even got together and how this company is now kind of springboarded. Now, when we first discussed a little bit prior to the show, you spoke about the XPrize, the Carbon XPrize, and what does that actually mean, and what is that now? I know your company is very much involved in that, and in the final stages of that, maybe Heather, you can give us a little bit of idea what the Carbon XPrize means, especially now with the climate conference taking place and all that stuff taking place this week is actually very pertinent. Explain to me a little bit what that means for your company and what's involved in that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the XPrize, some might know the global XPrize community. It's a challenge to address new solutions to some of the world's biggest problems, industrial CO2 emissions being one of the leading factors towards climate change. The XPrize put together the NRG COSIA XPrize. It's a $20 million prize for solutions that can come up with new ways to reimagine CO2 and turn it into valuable products. So when I met Jerry, he had qualified as a semi-finalist, which was really exciting, one of 20 in the world. And now we're on to the next round, going into the top 10. So we have the global evaluators from XPrize coming up to Ottawa at the end of the month, and from there we move on to hopefully the final round. It's a 4-year challenge, so there's no real silver bullet to addressing industrial emissions. So this is just sort of a mission to get as many different minds together on this problem and give it some international profile through the COSIA XPrize.
So, okay, this is clearly, obviously, as you say, it's quite a process to even be part of this and being considered as a semi-finalist. So, as you said, Jerry, you've started this process quite a while back. Maybe you can share with me now, of course, we'd love a company like yours to win. Of course, we'd like an Ottawa company to win. Of course, we would. But what's kind of what's the next step for you regardless of this? Like, how does this look? Yes, I'd love, obviously this will mean a lot for the company. It already means a lot for your exposure. It means a lot in kind of introducing you to other opportunities and or just creating that network of people that you need to be involved in. But what does it mean for the company, whether you win or lose moving forward?
Yeah, so it's been a great, you mentioned the word springboard before. It's been a great launch pad, being sort of catapulted into this international scientific community and also just validating our solution. So, there's a lot of new technology, emerging technology in carbon recycling. We've gone from looking at early carbon capture and carbon storage to really an emerging technology that can recycle this waste product and turn it into new ideas and new products. So this gives us a really great network of the validation, but also industrial partners. We were also brought in with the Mars Clean Tech portfolio in Toronto. We're part of the Clean Tech portfolio here at Invest Ottawa through the Clean Tech Investment and Trade. They've been wonderfully supportive, and so that really just puts us on the radar to have that XPrize validation, and it's really a marketing vehicle. So my background is in communications, and so when I saw that, it's really something that we can use to build relationships really quickly, and that's what we're trying to do is rapidly commercialize and scale this solution. So it's not just great R&D that sits in a lab, but it's actually we can tackle this problem worldwide really quickly through this platform of XPrize.
Jenny, maybe you can tell us a little bit for yourself. Here you are, XPrize finalist now. The solution has been something you've been working on for years now, but it's almost over the last 2 or 3 years that you've now really kind of make this connection with Heather as well, and yourself being, an engineer yourself and being able to come up with a solution, but kind of taking to the next level, like getting in the XPrize and taking it, building a marketing plan around it and building, a revenue model around it. I mean, that takes time. So maybe you can share with us a little bit for yourself that evolution. How's that come to fruition for you? Sitting at the hub Ottawa, as you mentioned, just on your computer, and then now the next step and how things have changed for you, and where do you see the company going for yourself?
Yeah, so I guess originally when I started, it was mostly just engineering thoughts, not really thinking about the business at all. But any good engineer knows that if you're going to develop something, there needs to be a payback on it, right? So the original thought was, let me design something that has a reasonable time frame for payback, as it would pertain to, say, power plants or the power industry. So when they build a power plant, it's something like 30-year payback. After that, they try not to put any more money into it, and it's all just free money after that. So that was sort of my thought was, well, let me design something that can have a 30-year payback. Turned out it was a lot less, more like 5 to 8 years on some of our smaller models, but sooner in a lot of our different models, in our larger models. And so, but for us to get to that point, I wasn't the one that really had the ability or the desire to sit down and hash that out. I wanted to be in the lab, wanted to do the designs. That's where Heather came in. She introduced me to a lot of different people over the past year, really. I'd say the past 12 months, who have a much stronger business background, and we've come up with a few business models where we're able to actually install this free of charge and make money on the back end, and that could be a business model for us. Other models where we take the design and we essentially license it and let whatever company just use that. All different things that I hadn't originally thought about, but it really kind of started with Heather, knowing the entire, I wouldn't say entire, but a large portion of entrepreneurial scene in Ottawa, and being able to connect us to the right people at the right time to sort of put us in a light where, it's not just something that looks good on paper, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs come through and say, hey, this is amazing, look at it, and you read it on paper and it sounds great, but then it comes into what are the logistics, how does that make sense? And sometimes it just, logistically, it wouldn't make sense, but we've been able to work in the past year or so to really make it work on paper, and as Heather was saying before, moving from what we have on paper and going forward with our industrial partnerships that we have planned in 2018, I think we have a good opportunity to scale rapidly, I'd say, in the next 12 months or so. But it's sort of, if you think of it in terms of like an overnight success story, I think it's the same for all overnight successes. Not that we're successful yet, but there's a lot of behind the scenes, like you were saying, right? And then eventually it just, everything sort of falls into place and things scale rapidly at that point. So it's been probably 4 years now since this whole journey started, and we're looking hopefully within the next 12 months that we'll have something that's that we can show off on an industrial scale, not just a lab scale. Yeah.
So yeah, that sounds exciting. A lot of things are happening. So just for yourself, once again, I guess this the next step now from a revenue generating perspective, because that's the wonderful thing about this. It's not just changing the carbon emissions, but it's also there is a revenue model associated with it as well, which is great. So obviously that's very appealing for potential clients as well. So is that your first step? Is your first step, obviously, I would say XPrize, number one. That's our first goal, numero uno. But then I guess next step for you, is it to try and just build a sales force so you can go out to your potential commercial clients, or is it even looking at investors? Or I mean, sure, you're open to a variety of suggestions.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what entrepreneurs do. We're problem solving this, and we're trying to be innovative in the business model and the way that we approach that as well. So we're really lucky. We are in kind of a sweet spot right now from in terms of trends, but also in terms of policy highlights. We hear a lot about the low carbon economy building. So right now we are building kind of that network and the ecosystem that exists here in Ottawa. It's fantastic because we have access to some of those decision makers, and we can kind of hear what's coming down the pipe in terms of funding. So we've been able to layer on some of those opportunities in addition to other funding sources. And as Jerry mentioned, we're going to be going into industrial demonstration, real world demonstration with some of the partnerships that we've built up. And what's exciting is that they've actually approached us, these customers, because they need this solution. Now that we have a price on pollution at the provincial, but soon national level and international level. We mentioned the conference this week in Bonn, Germany, on the Paris Climate Agreement. So that will be forces that are going to be driving this, not just policy forces, but market forces. The economics make sense to try to recycle this, and so that's where we're going to be going to build this with that whole network in tow.
So congratulations. Excited for you guys to step up here. If you don't know who we're speaking to just yet, we have Jerry and Heather here from Tandem Technical. They are changing and making a real impact when it comes to carbon emissions, and of course assisting those clients as well in that industry specifically to also generate revenue through their very innovative concepts. So if you haven't done so already, make sure you check them out. Make sure you stay tuned to Techopia Live for upcoming interviews as well. We'll showcase amazing companies like this, but also make sure you stay tuned to techopia.ca, where you can go and get some more information about this wonderful company as well. And stay tuned as we look forward as you take the next step forward and do more amazing things. Thank you so much for joining us today, and good luck.
Thanks for having us. It's been fun.
Thank you, guys.